Got it. Okay, this is Bruce Mandel, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Madaket Area Plan Advisory Work Group. This is our December 8th meeting, and I'd like to ask Bill Greeter to please read the short version of the required statement before we get into the agenda.
So as Bruce said, this is the Madaket Area Plan Work Group meeting for December the 8th, 2023. It's being conducted via Zoom. The chair will, because of that, the chair will conduct a roll call for all attendance and all votes. Zoom participants will be asked to identify themselves when they speak. Their name is noted at the bottom of the screen. Participants are asked to mute their devices unless addressing the committee. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment if there are any comments from the public who have joined the meeting. At this point, Bruce will do a roll call, and you folks are on your own. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greeter.
Thank you, Bill.
Please indicate attendance by saying aye. Tom Erickson.
Here.
Ethan Devine.
Here.
Thank you. Lars Soderberg.
Here.
Leslie Forbes.
Here.
Michael Maynard.
Here.
David Madigan.
Here.
Joe Topham.
Here.
Peter Heffenreffer.
Here.
Bruce Mandel here. Thank you very much. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The next item on the agenda reads election of officers, but we've already done that, and I've been appointed the chairperson. And as it stands right now, there are no other official officers, vice chair people or whatnot. Leslie Forbes has volunteered to function as a temporary secretary because of the resignation of our designated secretary. The next item would be the acceptance of the agenda. I just need a quick motion for that, and we'll have a vote.
So move.
Anybody? Thank you, Michael.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. I'll do a roll call. Tom Erickson.
Yes.
Ethan Devine.
Yes.
Lars Soderberg.
Yes.
Leslie Forbes.
Yes.
Michael Maynard. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Madigan.
Yes.
Joe Topham.
Aye.
And Mr. Heffenreffer.
Yes.
Thank you. So the agenda is accepted. And the next item, of course, is the approval of the minutes of the actually October meeting. And I have to apologize for having to cancel the November meeting. I had a health issue that caused me to not be able to conduct the meeting. So I apologize for that. But those minutes that were distributed actually for the October meeting is what we're going to be approving now. You each have gotten a copy of that. Does anyone have comments about those minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Madigan,
Second.
thank you. Anybody? And Mr. Topham seconds. I'll do a roll call on that to make it official. Tom Erickson.
Yes.
Ethan Devine.
Yes.
Thank you. Lars Soderberg.
Yes.
Yes. Leslie Forbes.
Yes.
Thank you. Michael Maynard.
Yes.
Thank you. David. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Topham.
Aye.
Mr. Heffenreffer, if you're still there.
I am, yes.
Okay, so those minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is public comment for items that are not on the agenda. And I see one member of the public is listening into the Zoom session. And I'm going to ask if Mary has any comments on items that are not on the agenda.
Yes, I do, Bruce. Thank you very much. I was under the impression and understanding that based on a recent meeting that I think viewed that Mary Longacre, the chair of the NPNEDC, was going to be attending this meeting. Was that rescinded? That's my first question. My second question is for I'm assuming that Mr. Topham is there as the representative of the NPNEDC. Is that correct?
Okay, thank you for those questions, Mary.
No, and if it is, I'd like to direct a question about the local area plans that are being reviewed by the NPNEDC and the status of them. And I'm curious to know how I'm one of the secretaries of the Civic League. We are interested in finding out what the status of the other local area plans is, whether they have been approved, whether they're on an agenda, or exactly what. And I'm wondering if Mr. Topham can give me some information about how I can get answers to that question. Those are my questions.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Ms. Longacre is, of course, free to participate in our session, but I was not aware that she intended to participate today. I will tell you, and it'll come up later in our meeting, that we did have a discussion with Mary Longacre and Leslie Snell yesterday about what they wanted to talk to a few of us about, what they call the chat session, to go over some of the draft guidelines. So we can bring that up. I hope that will help you. And to answer your question about Mr. Topham, he is an ad hoc member of the PNEDC to the Madaket Area Plan Work Group. But I'm going to stick my neck out a little bit, Mary Warrow, because your question about the status of the other area plans is really not something for being discussed at our area plan work group. That is something that is discussed quite frequently at the NPNEDC's and the planning department's meetings that occur every other week. And I listened in to the NPEDC meeting this week, and they did discuss that and update that, but I really don't think that's an appropriate item for the Madaket Area Plan Work Group to be discussing. Mr. Topham, do you have a comment about that?
No, Mr. Mandel, I think that you were correct that I would love it if she would join us on our next NPDC meeting, and we can give her an update or report, or shoot Leslie Snell an email along with Mary, and then we could reply to her via email. That's what I would recommend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mary Warrow, do you have any other comments? I'm sorry that we really can't get into the other air.
No, I understand, and I did watch. I didn't watch the entire NPNEDC meeting on December. I guess it was the 5th when you were discussing the reorganization of the NPNEDC. But I guess my question was prompted by the fact that public comment is intended for items not on the agenda. And I certainly recognize that other local area plans are not on the agenda, but and that's why I asked the question. So I'll be happy to contact whoever is appropriate. Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't give you a better answer than that, but you know, I'm focusing on the Madaket area plan, and I'm really not following too closely the other 6 or 7 area plans. So I wouldn't be able to give you any kind of a good update, but I encourage you to check in with NPEDC and the planning department. Thank you. Okay, is any other public comment? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda, which I don't really have in front of me. Hold on.
Composition and makeup of the work group for possible
yeah.
letter to MP and EDC.
Yes, thank you very much. The composition of our work group is pretty well set. We have currently 15 members, including ad hoc members, such as Mr. Topham, and we have ad hoc members from conservation entities whose properties are included within the proposed amended boundary for the Madaket area plan. Unfortunately, none of those are on the call today. I know that Emily Molden from the Land and Water Council and Kitty Parkman could not be here. As far as Jesse Bell from the Land Bank and Cormac Collier from the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, they're not on the call. The composition of the work group, we lost 2 members, actually 1 member, Ms. Slattery, and hasn't been any indication that we need to find substitutes for them. And that was part of the chat that Mike and Leslie Forbes had yesterday with Mary Longacre and Leslie Snell. It was part of the conversation. Leslie Forbes was kind enough to do a bullet point summary of the discussions, and part of that bullet point discussion delves into the potential of adding a member or 2 to the area group, although our area group is kind of unwieldy right now at 15. And it plays into several other issues in terms of the makeup of a quorum. The more members of the work group we have, the more people need for a quorum. It makes it a little unwieldy. Leslie Forbes, do you have any comments on this item?
I do not. I think we're fine the way we are.
Okay, we're good the way we're going.
Mhm.
I think that takes care of that agenda item. The agenda item about the confirmation of volunteers to work on chapters for the subgroups. This is important. And all I'm really looking for is confirmation that you're still interested in working on a small sub work group to deal with the specific chapters that you guys indicated you might be interested in. And I sent out a list, and basically what we've got is the overall first chapter of an area plan is goals and objectives, and we're all kind of going to be putting input into that. Chapter 2 is on land use, and Lars, Leslie, Michael, and Emily Molden indicated they would be interested in working on that. And as long as none of those characters withdraw, we'll be using that as a small sub work group. And that again was discussed yesterday, and it's in those bullet points that Leslie sent out. And we've got housing discussion, a chapter on that. Bob Kacharvi was on that list, but he has withdrawn. So it's me, Leslie, and Lars going to be working on that. And And by the way, Lars made a good comment to me that once we have confirmation from everyone as to the chapters they want to work on, amongst those small groups, 2, 3, 4 people, they should have one person who's kind of the leader of that group in terms of keeping things on track. As far as economic development, David Madaket, I'm very glad to see that you had volunteered for that. And I hope you're still on board for that. And there are some commercial activities that we need to address there, Madaket Marine, Middle East, things like that. And of course, part of that will be how this issue of whether we're going to have commercial short-term rentals in our neighborhood. So that will be an important item. The 5th chapter is natural and cultural resources, water quality, erosion, viewscapes, things of that nature that Michael, Lars, Peter, Emily, Kitty, Ethan, and even Tom said they were interested in. But if any of them need to back out, let me know. An important chapter is open space and recreation that Ethan, Kitty, Emily, and I are interested in. And of course, one of the items is the land bank option for refusal on a sale of a property. We talked about that, so we may want to bring in Jesse Bell into that. Services and facilities, that's the 7th chapter that Peter, Michael, and David are interested in. Septic and sewer, landfill, town water, emergency vehicle access, and things of that nature. Maintaining the town piers and ramps and the commercial use. And then the last 2 chapters are circulation, transportation, which Lars, Leslie, Tom, and I were interested in. Circulation obviously is even paper roads, the bike path, parking issues, which kind of folds into the commercial short-term rentals, especially if those become a burden in terms of parking for those buildings. Sidewalks, access to Smith Point is critical, as well as Sheep Pond and the head of the plains and the Massasoit Bridge, which, by the way, the design work on the Massasoit Bridge is continuing, but I haven't been able to get an update from Vince Murphy on that. And I'm not quite sure whether he has been assigned that project or that's one of those projects that's still looking for a project manager that the town has to appoint. According to Libby, she wants to get back to me on it. So that's a little unsure. And then once we have all these chapters worked on, we're going to kind of compile them and implement them. One of the interesting things that we're going to have to deal with based on our conversations yesterday is that even these small sub-work groups of 2 and 3 and maybe even 4 people, we have to be careful about noticing if those 4 people are going to get together and discuss their chapter. If, however, it's just going to be an email between me and a chapter leader, that doesn't necessarily create the requirement for a notice to be published and for that interaction to be made public. We just have to be careful when we create emails about subjects that we want to share, that we don't do anything except CC to the recipient. And that is just a safety precaution, as I understand it, to prevent someone from inadvertently collecting a reply all to an email and having it get a wider distribution, which would have triggered a quorum and the need for a public notice. One of the issues on this public notice is what Mary Longacre and Leslie Snell seem to indicate is that we're supposed to be going through the planning department in terms of setting up our Zoom sessions. Rather than using the good efforts of Bill Greeter working through Maureen Coleman and the town administration. There's two separate categories, I guess, of Zooms. So we still need to clarify that. And we had some questions on that Mary Longacre understood and said she'd get back to me, but as it stands right now, my understanding is most of our work is supposed to be going through Ms. Trudell of the planning department, which I will endeavor to do. So that's pretty much where we stand there. And the bottom line is, if any of you want to change what area plan chapters you're interested in, either to add one or to delete one, I would ask that you send me a one-on-one email letting me know that we need to change that. And I'm looking forward to that. Does anyone have any questions about this item, about the volunteers and the little sub-work groups on the various chapters? Oh, Leslie has her hand raised. Thank you.
Yes, I already sent you an email about the areas that I will pull out of. But I'm adding to it that I'll be happy to edit the final document that would be submitted. So I will take that on. The second
Okay,
thing,
I'll take a look at that and update our list. Thank you.
so I want to pull out of land use. I want to pull out of, I do want to pull out of land use. I want to pull out of housing. And I want to pull out of circulation.
Okay, I'm taking my editing pen. And
So that's one thing.
yes, thank you.
I don't know whether other people want to state their preferences now or not.
So that's the question that I have. So if any of you, let me get that straight. Land use. You're
No,
still-
I want to get out, I will stay in land use. I want to get out of housing and out of circulation.
Gotcha.
But I am adding that I will take responsibility for editing the final document that would be submitted to NPEDC.
That's the overall editing of all the chapters.
Correct.
Good.
Bless you.
Very helpful.
Bruce, you can add me to open space and recreation. I thought I was on that. I just see there's so many links between that and land use that I would stay involved in that as well.
And some of these chapters are kind of interrelated, so there's not a fine line there, but thank you for that, Michael.
Mr. Chairman, if I could I get on housing, take Leslie's and then help out David at economic development?
Okay, so Joe Topham wants to be.
Thank
added
you.
to housing. And are you going to add Joe to any of the other chapters?
The economic development.
Oh, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Okay, well, that seems to cover this for this meeting. And of course, that's not the end all. If anybody has any thoughts in between meetings, feel free to.
Well, Bruce, I also sent an email out about other things that I thought were appropriate to be discussed in the chapters. So it was a deeper list than what you have here.
Yes, and my intent.
And so is this a good time to talk about it, or shall we talk about it at another time?
I think what I want to do is take your list, and there is another list from 2 years ago in a very lengthy email. I want to merge them all into the base document that Diane Brown put out in 2021 and send that to Leslie Forbes for her review, and then make that an agenda item for the January meeting. Is that okay?
It is with me.
Okay, anybody have any agita with that plan? That'll give you a better view of not only who's working on those chapters, but what generally goes in the chapters, not only based upon what's in the generic, hey, this is an area plan, this is what you talk about, but some of the information from some of the other already approved area plans and chapters I want to try to merge that into. Mr. Heffenreffer, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, can I just ask if I can wait till I get home to review the subgroups and give you an answer then?
Oh, sure. There's no final rush on that.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Topham, your hand is still raised?
My bad, user error.
Okay, good. All right, there's no hands raised anymore. The next item on the agenda is new business. And the only item of new business that I have running around my head is that the transportation plan has recently been presented to the select board and approved. It's a very lengthy document. I think I've shared the draft one with you, but there is a section on Madaket. And one of the things I'd like to ask you folks about is whether we should invite Mr. Burns, the town's transportation planner, to attend one of our upcoming meetings to basically discuss the Nantucket long-range transportation plans impact on Madaket. And I think it's something that we may want to know about before we conclude the work on the area plans, because it does impact some of those items in the chapters. And I wanted to get your opinion as to whether we should ask Mr. Burns to participate.
Yes.
Joe?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, anyone else? Leslie Forbes?
Well, we just talked about having chapter presidents, let's say. So I'm going to float an idea of maybe the transportation and circulation people meet with Mr. Burns rather than the whole committee. And then the transportation chapter president reports to the whole committee. Different structure than what
Yeah, I
we're
see that.
working on.
We've got 3 people on that transportation circulation committee right now, Lars, Tom, and myself. And that's not a bad idea. Well, I guess we need to do is find out what Lars and Tom's schedule might be, and then see how we can get that to jive with Mr. Burns' schedule. And maybe we can get a small Zoom going through the planning department.
I think that's a good idea, Leslie. I think as we proceed, we're going to have to find lots of ways to be more efficient, and that's a much more efficient use of everyone's time. And Bruce, I would suggest getting his schedule. When could he meet? And then, 1 or 2, 2 or 3 times that he could speak with us. And then I'm sure, Tom, you and me can find one of those that works.
I'll do that. Thank you.
I have a slightly different perspective. I think that if at our January meeting, I mean, given I haven't read the plan, so I don't know, but it's lengthy. It'll impact the entire island. I think it wouldn't hurt for him to have 15 minutes at our next group meeting, so everyone hears an overview from his perspective as to where it's going. I don't disagree that it would make sense to have him interact with the transportation group, but I think a number of us in other areas will be indirectly impacted. So, rather than holding up the process with everyone else, I would think it would benefit to hear all of us to just get a brief 15-minute synopsis of what he wants, unless such a thing exists, executive summary or.
Well, another way to go on that is we can set the meeting up and anyone who's interested can join in.
Let
Yeah,
me.
that's fine.
Thank you for that, Michael. Let me reach out to Mr. Burns and see what his thoughts are. An overview might be helpful to all the members of the work group. And then a more specific Chapter 8 discussion of specific items in Madaket, which are basically the paper roads, the bike path, parking, rights of way and easements, sidewalks, roads, bridges, and things of that nature. that might be a better, more detailed session just between Lars, Tom, and myself and Mr. Burns. So
If we were meeting physically, I think it would be more complicated, but where all these meetings are gonna take place by Zoom, it's really asking him to spend a little more time with us doing two meetings, but I think for the group meeting, I think it's a pretty short, it's just a presentation of an executive summary. It's not gonna be a discussion or work plan with him.
I don't see anything wrong with asking for that.
I mean, Lars's suggestion would be another way to do it with people who want to join, but
Yeah.
I just think, at least from my perspective, I would like very much to hear what he has to say from a summary point of view.
Let me bounce it off Mr. Burns and see what he suggests. An executive summary, maybe at our next meeting, with the intention of a more detailed chapter meeting with him. After that, I think might be a good plan. Let me ask you folks a question. I see Ms. Warrow has her hand raised, but she's not a member of the committee. And we've already had our public comment. Anybody see any issue with asking Ms. Warrow?
Let her speak.
Love to hear what she has to say.
Okay, Mary, do you have something brief to say?
She's on mute.
Yes, I do. And my question is, is it the position of the NP and EDC with respect to its, local area guidelines? Is it their position that the sub-work groups, such as what you're describing, the transportation subgroup, is that subject to the open meeting law requirement? And if so, then it would have to be an open noticed public meeting. I don't know what your position is, but and you may not know what it is either, but I think that's an important question. So
Thank
Bruce-
you, Mary.
Bruce, would you like me to answer that?
Yes, please. Leslie Forbes is going to respond to Mary.
In our meeting with Leslie Snell and Mary Longacre yesterday, they made it very clear that subcommittees of area plans are governed by open meeting laws. And given the fact that the subcommittees are maybe 2 or 3 people, the quorum issue doesn't absolve, or the lack of quorum issue doesn't really absolve you from not following open meeting laws. So the conversation was very much along the line that, so should that transportation committee want a chapter meet, they need to be in touch with whomever NPEDC gives us as our support person to publicly announce a meeting, put an agenda together, and you have to do it. It has to be official 48 hours in advance of when you meet. Since you're having somebody else help you with this, you probably need to get it to them 56 hours ahead of time or more than that, so they have time to get it into the docket. Whether there's going to be room for you at the time that you want it, we don't know yet.
Thank you, Leslie. The other thing that was sort of clear to me is that if, for example, there are 3 members on a sub-work group talking about transportation, but each of them individually wants to work on some notes and comments and suggestions for the others to consider at some more formal time, that person could work on that without being subject to the open meeting law. They could just work on that by themselves.
The distinction that Leslie Snell made, which I found helpful, is that any deliberation is it must be held underneath the open meeting law. If you're just updating or reporting, like you write a newsletter article that just tells you what happened in the meeting today, that is not an open meeting violation. If you're just reporting decisions and activities that have happened, you're not asking for opinion, you're not asking for discussion, you're just reporting or updating, that you're pretty much in the clear with that. But once you move into, well, what do you think about this? Or you're having actual deliberation, well, let's vote on this. 3 people yes, 2 people no. That is covered under open meeting. And must be.
Another example that we discussed, for example, at an MCA board meeting, there could be a report to the MCA board of what this work group did in their open meeting, so that people at least are kept aware of what's happening, but there can be no discussion or deliberation or feedback from people in the meeting as to areas, suggestions about how we operate or change or different thoughts. That crosses the line and then it puts it into open meeting. So it's very very cumbersome, given that we have whatever 7 or 8 work groups that each of those doing their work is required to do it under the open meeting regulations, which means scheduling a meeting to have discussions and so forth. But they were pretty firm about it.
And it's still a work in process, I guess, because they recognized there was still some tweakings that needed to be done. Mr. Greeter, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you. Let me take it down so I don't mess that up. Just another point for your consideration. Even to the degree of having a conversation with the transportation manager, any and all of these meetings, if they're going to be hybrid or Zoom only, not only is his schedule and the attendee schedule need to be looked at, the availability of a Zoom channel, as well as somebody to run the meeting, will have to be secured. There's 3 town Zoom channels. They're very busy with various official town elected boards. It's going to be compounded even more so by your small work group breakout sessions, if that's going to have to follow the same criteria. So quite frankly, I am not interested, nor will be available for all of these, many meetings that are going to be coming up. And quite frankly, it's a good reason I'm not on your committee, is because from my point of view, if this is a mandate from the town, then there needs to be staff and funding to support it. I view it as similar to a mandate from the state that the town needs to do something and there is no funding for it. So I would hearken that you need to check out that stuff, and I would suggest you find out exactly what the criteria is going to be and how it's going to be accomplished before, quite frankly, you waste time trying to figure out people's schedules, because that's going to have an impact on how you do it. I'm going to disappear again.
Thank you. Good point. When you say there are 3 town Zoom channels, are you including the Zoom channel that the planning department and the planning board uses?
There are 3. I haven't, for lack of a better term, snooped through the meetings and see what channel those various groups are on. I do know that I have caused panic and havoc at one point when I went to pre-check that I could get into this channel for your meeting, and the channel was in use by a select board. I don't know if it was a doesn't really matter, contract, whatever it was. But all of a sudden I got a couple of texts going, rah, 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 rah. You're trying to log in to a meeting that's the town is using the channel. So I don't know. That's a question for Erica. The scheduling has to go through Erica because she is the oversight for the channels. And that's that's all I know at this point. Thank you.
All right, thanks for those comments. Mr. Topham, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you, sir. So I'm on the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, BPAC, and Mr. Burns sets up those meetings for us and does all the Zoom work. So I think the invitation for him to join you and see if he would like to continue to join in those meetings. He may be able to help facilitate one of your categories, number 8. I think that may help. He would have that direct line, and otherwise, I think Megan Trudell would be the person that I would reach out to because she could facilitate a lot of this. I think red tape for the town and Zooms. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you for that, Joe. That is Mary Longacre and Leslie Snell were pointed us to Meg Trudell basically as our contact point for the work we're doing through the planning board and planning department.
She's excellent.
Yeah. Mary, I see your hands up, but I'm going to call on Leslie Forbes now.
You want me to go or you want Mary Wavro to go?
No, I want you to go.
All right. Well, what I want, Mary yesterday said that they would have to find a support person for us. For this near-term work, yes, Megan Trudell, but Mary did not have a name to give us yet to be our support person. She also said that, or Leslie said, they wanted to have a planning, a plus, I think a plus person to start helping with our meetings. And I don't think, Joe, that they meant you. I think they meant somebody on staff.
Yeah, I'm not part of
And
that platform. Yeah.
it's not clear to me, so I don't know the answer to that. But those were 2 personnel resources that Snell and Longacre recognized as being absent when we met with them yesterday, but they didn't have a solution just yet. They knew that, Joe, you were on our committee and participating actively. So this is not meant to intersect with you at all.
There's also a person that plus, I think her name is Nikki, that Mary Longacre indicated was a staff person. So we'll have to figure out if that helps us at all. Michael Maynard, your hand is raised.
3 comments related to this open meeting, the whole subject. Number 1, both Leslie and Mary at our meeting, our chat yesterday.
The other Leslie, not me.
The other Leslie, yes, the town Leslie, I'll call. They referred to a recent presentation by an expert on open meeting law that was recorded, and they suggested that it was very useful and we should review it. They indicated that they were going to send a link to that presentation. I'm not aware that we have received that yet, but when we do, I suggest that it might make sense for everyone here to look at it. It's very complicated stuff. That's one comment. The second comment is that Leslie Snell suggested one workaround for this issue of having every discussion of any of the subgroups to requiring an open meeting forum, that if we designate a leader, if you will, committee chair or work group, subgroup chair, that person could assign at the group meetings, try to delegate the work, break it into pieces that individuals on the committee could pursue on their own. And then when you have your subgroup meetings, you can have your discussion under open meeting regulations. But if you're organized and fairly disciplined, it's one way to get most of the work done offline, and the group meetings become review and discussion.
Michael,
Finally,
excuse me, Michael, was that up to 3 people or up to 4 people?
it's any subgroup.
Okay,
Yeah, basically, when you have two people working on something together, it's an open meeting issue. So, the third thing is that Bruce sent out an email just before the meeting today with an update on agendas and so forth. And in it, he put an attachment with Leslie's notes, Leslie Forbes's notes on the meeting, or the chat group meeting that Bruce and Leslie and I had with Mary and Leslie Snell yesterday. I recommend you take a look at that because it gives some detail of the ground we covered, and this very complicated area where if we don't do it carefully, I don't know what happens when one intentionally or unintentionally violates the law. We don't want to get across that wire, but if you're not efficient, this could becoming very, very cumbersome. And so I think it makes sense we peppered them with questions about this. And I think it's worth your reading that. And also, when we get the link for the open meeting presentation, to look at that as well. I think we're going to have to be very efficient in the subgroups in order to not make this a 2 or 3 year process. Getting the work done in the subgroups and pulling it all together and sending it out. Basically, anytime 2 people sit down together and work on something, you're subject to the meeting. So the law.
Thank you for that, Michael. It is very complicated, and I'm sure we're going to trip over a couple of things as we march along. The comment you made about the link that Mary Longacre mentioned was apparently a presentation that someone from KP Law made recently. In addition to that, that Joe Topham shared with us several open meeting law type links. So unfortunately, it's still the responsibility of each individual to make themselves more aware of the open meeting law requirements. So any of you that have time to see any of these videos, and unfortunately, some of them, take some time. So it would be beneficial to listen to them. You're right.
Bruce, could you send a reminder to them to send that link out to us so we can distribute it? The most recent presentation, they both seem to think it was very good, very excellent. And I think it's an hour, but one could spend hours on this. We spent an easy hour on it yesterday.
Okay, I'll take care of that and let you know. Before we adjourn, first of all, any other new business? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Warrow, you have a comment?
Yes, I have a question, and that is, you made a number of references to a meeting which you referred to as a quote chat. And I am wondering if this chat was an open noticed meeting, and is there a notice? I had followed the statements in the NP and EDC's meetings about, and I understood that there was to be a meeting on December 7th, which then when I actually went to find it, showed up on the 8th. So was there a noticed meeting yesterday? It seems like there were a number of people who were there. And if the policy and practice is to treat such meetings as falling under the requirements of the open meeting law, I'm wondering if that was done for the meeting involving the chat.
My understanding is that there are only 3 of us participating in this chat session, so it certainly wasn't a quorum. And that meeting was not initiated by any of the 3 of us. So I think the question, Mary, would be more apt to be directed to either Mary Longacre or Leslie Snell. Neither myself, Michael Maynard, or Leslie Forbes initiated that meeting or set it up. We simply participated in it. So I
And
would-
it also, the subject matter was to answer questions. They were to answer questions and try to clarify for us what, as best they could, the guidelines for open meeting laws. That was the only topic, was how does it work and what do you have to do to comply?
It
I'm-
was an
I'm-
outcropping of a prior session that was open where the planning people felt that there was some need for some clarification on a few issues that we seem to misunderstand or needed some more information about. So they suggested this. So Mary, I would suggest that you reach out to Ms. Longacre or Ms. Snell to get the answer to your question.
But just to clarify, for your information, from what you know, there was no notice and notice of an open meeting for this meeting yesterday. I'm not criticizing anybody here. I'm just trying to follow what's going on. And I
I don't-
appreciate this very much.
Mary, I don't know the answer to your question because all I know is that I was included in a meeting, but I don't know if there was a formal notice posted. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I can't answer your question, and if I attempted to, I probably would trip over something that I was saying. So again, I'm going to refer you to Mary Longacre or Leslie Snell because I can't answer your question.
Thank you, Bruce. I completely understand and I appreciate all of your efforts. And
Okay.
thank you also, Michael. I also appreciate what you've said. Thanks.
And members of the work group, I appreciate your forbearance in allowing us to have Mary make some comments out of the order of the agenda. That concludes our agenda. Unless someone has something else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We'll move.
Second,
Madaket, any second?
second,
Okay, who was that?
David.
Oh, Dave. Okay, I don't know if you can second your own motion, but let's have a vote. Tom Erickson on adjourning.
Yes.
Lars Soderberg,
Yes.
thank you for seconding, Tom. Joe Topham,
Sir,
Michael Maynard,
Yes.
Leslie Forbes,
Yes.
and thank you for all your work. I appreciate it. Ethan Devine,
Yes.
thank you, Ethan. I appreciate your participating in the meeting. David Madigan,
Yes.
thank you very much. Mr. Heffenreffer,
Yes.
oh, thank you for being here from so far away. Duly noted that you made an extra international effort. I appreciate it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. Have a good weekend, folks, and happy holidays.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bruce.